So over the last couple of days, we've been hearing about fantastic inclusive practice and how important it is for children to be educated with their peers and not separated because of what's classed as a special educational need. And this morning our session will consider inclusion in higher education. There has been an increase in the number of disabled students accessing HE in the past 5 years, and it's increased by about a third. Currently, disabled students make up approximately 15% of students in higher education institutions. And in a recent review by the Institute for Employment Studies in 2019 on the support for disabled students in HE, they reported that supporting disabled students and moving to an inclusive approach is not a short-term fix for higher education institutions, but a long journey. HE providers across the sector are at various stages on this journey, and all providers report they're making progress towards a greater inclusivity and an inclusive model of support covering all students. But they also acknowledge that there's further work to do and to increase opportunities for individuals with learning disabilities. But this morning we're going to hear about Access All Areas and their work in partnership with the Royal Central School for Speech and Drama, I think it is actually, and their performance making diploma that they launched in 2014 for students with learning disabilities. And I'm going to hand over to Helen Breyer, who's Director of Take Part and Train and course leader for the performance making diploma, to Emma Selwyn, who's a diploma graduate and artist and trainee director, and also Heather Johnson, who's a support mentor for Emma. So I'll hand over to you guys now, if that's okay.
Of course, fab. Thank you very much, Ellen. Hello, everybody. I'm Helen. Like Ellen said, I'm the Director of Take Part and Train at Access All Areas. We'll tell you a bit more about what we do in a moment, but Emma, do you want to introduce yourself? I think I can't hear you, Emma. Can everyone else? Is it just me?
I think you need to turn up your volume, maybe. Oh, you're on mute now, Emma.
How now, brown cow?
It's very faint.
How now, brown cow?
Still quite quiet, Emma.
It's always tricky, isn't it? There's always something.
Okay.
Could you maybe try without your headphones?
Yeah.
How now, brown cow?
That's
That's
perfect.
That is better. Is that okay, Emma?
Yeah, sure. Okay, that's fine.
That's better.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I did the diploma course back in 2016. I'm an artist with Access All Areas. I do consultancy training with them, and I'm currently on the Transforming Leadership Scheme as a trainee director. So yeah.
Thanks, Emma. And Heather, do you want to let everyone know who you are as well?
Yes, sure. I'm Heather, and I work with Emma alongside all their work on transforming leadership as a support mentor.
So let's get my presentation up, ready to go. And we are going to talk to you about some of the work that we're doing. Here we are. So we are we're Access All Areas. We are a theatre company, and we make award-winning urban disruptive performance by learning disabled and autistic artists. So we as a company, we've been in existence since 1976 in some form or other, but since 2009, which is when our artistic director Nick arrived, we've sort of moved much more from to include kind of professional work as well as community work, and also education work. And like Ellen said, we've been running the performance making diploma at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama since 2014, and that's something that we're going to talk to you about this morning. So in terms of our work, this is sort of I love this image so much because it just sums up so much of what we're about as a company, I think. Emma, would you be able to tell us what's going on in this picture?
Oh, Angie McGee's just said, I can't see the PPT.
Oh no, can people see the PowerPoint?
I can see it.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone can.
When you say just Emma, Angie, do you mean me right now talking? Right, okay. Right. Can't see the PowerPoint. Apparently it's just me talking. I'm gonna try to say, I'm gonna turn off my video and I'm gonna turn off my video and audio for a moment.
I can see it, Emma. Can other people? I think it maybe is just Angie. I wonder if Angie might want to come out and come back in again, perhaps.
That's a good idea, Julie.
Because I think everyone else can see it, Emma.
Okay.
No worries. So Emma, if you want to turn your camera back on.
Yeah, it's on.
And talk to us about this image.
Okay, so basically, when I did the diploma, every diploma, there's an exit festival, which is an intensive period of, when I was there, 3 weeks. I don't know whether that's gone up or gone down since then, Helen. But yeah, for my intensive part of the course at the end, the exit festival was a cabaret piece called Sorry We're Here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, it's basically evolved in all sorts of ways. We've performed at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, Brixton's Electric, FKA Fridge. But this picture above is from when the show was at Soho Theatre in 2019. If there are any children around, it's called NFS. If there aren't children around, it's called Not Sorry. And I think you can make an educated guess as to what the middle word is, I hope.
That's such a good explanation, Emma.
Yeah, and I was in NFS, and Sorry We're Here, if that's not obvious. Anyway.
Thanks, Emma. And yeah, like I said, I love this picture because I think it says a lot about what we do as a company, which is really about platforming learning disabled and autistic artists, being quite cheeky, being quite edgy, and really enabling artists to have their own voices and sort of stick their middle finger up slightly to a society that isn't always fair to them.
Literally.
Yeah, often literally. It's certainly in this show.
Yeah.
Plenty of it. Yeah. So that kind of gives you a bit of a feel of what we're about. But in terms of our vision, so we want to see a world where the creative expression of learning disabled and autistic people is authentic, powerful, and valued. And we tend to work with adults, people who are over 18, but sometimes our work also takes us into schools and colleges, because it's really about sort of preparing young learning disabled and autistic people for this world where they're going to be listened to. Yeah, so that's kind of us as a company. So now we're going to talk to you about one of our major projects, which is the Performance Making Diploma. So as Ellen said, the Performance Making Diploma came about in 2014. It came about as a response to the fact that we were working with learning disabled and autistic artists, and sort of beginning to sort of make professional work and move into people getting paid to do their jobs. And we were hearing from lots of people that there was no training available to them. You know, everybody knows that a lot of the time, if you want to be an actor, you go to drama school. And we were hearing from people, but I can't go to drama school because I have a learning disability. it's not accessible to me. So it came about as a result of that. So we were very fortunate to receive some funding from the Leverhulme Trust, which enabled us to run for 3 years, and we funded it in different ways since then. Yeah, so we came up with this course in partnership with the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. Emma, would you be able to describe a little bit about sort of what the course is in your experience?
Yeah, in my experience, it's not been about community. Well, it is kind of about community, but what I mean by that is it's not just a nice little thing to keep someone busy for a couple of hours. Like we learn about Stanislavski, improv, script work, monologues. So in some ways, the training is actually quite traditional.
Yeah.
Movement, voice. We've had Ita O'Brien do movement classes with us in the past, and she's an intimacy director for screen and/or stage now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really about, exactly as Emma said, it's really about that professional level training.
Yeah, but it's not like Whiplash, if that makes sense. like yes, it's professional, so standards are very high, but equally there is like a safety net. Like there's always someone around for access and pastoral support, as well as for educational support, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's about fostering professional connections as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk in a little bit about the kind of the specifics of the things that are taught on the course and the kind of external tutors that we work with. But yeah, to give you the basics, it's a 2-year course, which originally was a 1-year course, but we've realised actually that we can really push people even further in that 2nd year to be kind of ready for professional work. We tend to take between 10 and 15 students every 2-year cycle, and they work with us two sessions a week, so 2 kind of half-day sessions a week. At the moment we have 1 in the evening and 1 in the morning, because we found that works quite well for people in terms of accessibility. In addition to those sessions, we also have intensive weeks. So like Emma was saying, the Exit Festival at the end of the course, that's 3 weeks in working intensively to create a show. But we also have, we've had an intensive immersive theatre week where we worked for a whole week on sort of taking over the building at Central and making a show where the audience moved around different places. There's those 2 sessions a week plus lots of intensive weeks alongside.
And live art, that's another thing. Like I actually came along, I can't remember when, last year, it's probably the year before last actually. We did a week with, not a week, I did a lesson with some of the students about live art.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, it's really it's about all of those things, about that real professional training, but also really encouraging the artists who are the students to think about creating their own work, and really putting their voices front and centre. So it takes place at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. Of course, at the moment it takes place like this, online, but usually it takes place at Central. And you know, when we were sort of coming up with the idea for the course, we of course were asking ourselves, you know, we want to do professional training with learning disabled and autistic artists. We have the expertise to work with those artists within us as Access All Areas, as a theatre company. We could just do it ourselves, but of course, what I said before about so many people thinking I can't go to drama school because I have a learning disability, because I have autism. Our response to that really was, well, we've got to be in a building. And so Central, as you may or may not know, is one of the sort of foremost sort of providers of actor training in the country. So it really was hugely important to us to be in that building. Emma, do you want to say anything about kind of what it was like when you were on the course, being in Central, being in the building?
When I, like, the thing about Central is that while it is prestigious, like, on one level it can be kind of intimidating at first, but on another, because of how much tradition there is behind Central. I mean, they've got names like Judi Dench or whatever etched into the steps. I think it's basically a way of really getting people. I'm not wording this very well, but I think it's like,
oh, you're doing great.
I think it's like a way of being part of history, as it were, like being part of history but shaking it up at
Absolutely.
the same time.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it. I think shaking it up at the same time, I think, is such a key thing. So there's something about the experience, what I've noticed with kind of bringing in new groups of students into the building. The experience of being in that building for the first time can, of course, be quite intimidating, because, as Emma says, you go in and, like, Judi Dench's name is carved into the floor. You know, there are pictures of very famous, very established British actors all over the place because they've graduated from Central. The building itself, a lot of it feels quite big and scary. So it's so important for us to have the students in there, because then what we find after a few months is that our students are drinking in the bar, you know, they're hanging out in the library, they are taking up space in the building. And of course, for those students, what that does is make them feel like, yeah, I belong here, but I also belong in British theatre on the British screen. But it also means for the other Central students who are on other courses and who might be non-disabled, seeing learning disabled and autistic people as part of their community is really important. I think if we go back to that vision of ours as Access All Areas, of a world where learning disabled and autistic voices are listened to, it's all part of the same thing. It's all moving towards that, because we're not only sending our actors out into the world feeling like, yeah, I belong here, but we're also sending those other actors out into the world thinking, yeah, okay, diversity is good. It's good to have a big range of different kinds of people here. So you'll see we won an award in 2015. It was for equality and diversity in higher education, and that was Central won that award as a result of the course. And the kind of feedback from the staff at Central has been incredible in terms of the way that it has broadened their horizons and broadened the way that they think about actors. There's, of course, still loads of work to do. As we know, in lots of areas of life, there's so much work to do to make things accessible and to make it feel like everybody belongs. But this is a step in that direction, I think. In terms of how the partnership works actually with Central, so as we said at the beginning, I'm the course leader, so I do the kind of the bulk of the sort of setup of things. I also teach a lot on the course, but we work really closely with Central's outreach department. We have a really fantastic colleague there, Mari, who is our kind of eye on the inside. So anything happening in the Central community that we might not know about because we're in our office elsewhere in London, we're still being involved in all of that stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about the other ways that we make sure that students are still part of life at Central. But we're going to show you something now. So like Emma said, the course really is not just about time filling. It's really not just about having a nice time, doing some drama. It is confidence building, of course it is. It's independence building, of course it is, but that's not the aim of it. The aim is to create actors who are ready to work in the world. And one of our real success stories has been Jules Robertson here. So Jules, well, I'll let him tell you. I'll show you the video. You can have a look at what he does.
Jules Robertson isn't short on confidence.
Action!
I really believe I can be the UK's new hot talent in this industry.
She's dead, isn't she?
I am a genius actor.
For a take, please, ladies and gents.
I'm just so charismatic on screen.
Ah.
It wasn't always like this. As a kid, Jules was a misfit, bullied and called a retard. In fact, he's very bright. He just has Asperger's, a condition on the autism spectrum.
No.
Jules has just been cast as Jason, a young man with a similar disability in the TV drama Holby City.
Stop it. Just stop it. I don't want to know.
At first, Jules found it tough going.
When I first started this job, I was having a few minor breakdowns because I was finding the stress really hard. And I was kind of, coming home and crying because I was so physically exhausted and nervous.
Turn over, please.
Okay, returning.
Initially, the cast had misgivings too.
We film not stupidly fast, but pretty fast. There's not much room for stopping, pausing, helping somebody out. So I was concerned. And my concerns evaporated on the very first day that he was here.
Why?
Because he can act.
Has the crew had to change the way it works? Yes, but not much. Scripts are finished early and the set is kept calm. No bad thing, Asperger's or otherwise.
What's been the hardest thing about having Jules on the team?
The hardest thing about having Jules on the team, do you know, I really can't think of anything because
Really?
It's such a joy to have around. And everybody adores him so much.
It all begs the question, why are so few people on the autism spectrum in employment? Less than 15% have full-time jobs.
Take my hand.
Autism is hidden and misunderstood, say campaigners. As kids, sensory overload written off as bad behaviour. Autistic adults not given the right support to find work. And even the obvious opportunities, playing autistic characters in the arts, given to what we call neurotypical actors.
He doesn't want to hit me. Don't. Rain Man doesn't. I don't like the fact that it's not played by a real autistic person. I think it's an absolute fraud. I think what Holby's done to cast me is really good. Really good to inspire parents who have kids on the autistic spectrum that they can do this line of work as well.
And nice and still, thank you.
Jules had always loved film. The arts run in his family. His mother is a well-connected author. And with her support, he joined a theatre group called Access All Areas. All their graduates have gone on to some kind of paid employment.
I hope you all had a pleasant afternoon and I thank you for coming along. Good evening.
When Jules told me he wanted to take acting classes, I thought that's a really odd choice for an autistic person because they find, interacting socially so unnerving. But watching him do the classes, I realised how beneficial it is. So I would recommend for all autistic people to take acting classes. It's been hugely healing.
Is this just therapy then?
Definitely not therapy. There might be elements that people kind of get which are therapeutic in terms of their communication levels, in terms of their social skills, but actually what we're really doing is enabling people, equipping people with the performance skills that they wouldn't necessarily have had access to unless they come on a very bespoke program like this. It's professional training, but it's also giving people a voice.
New voices, new stories. Nearly 1 million Britons are thought to be on the autism spectrum. So how to get more people like Jules in work? Stage. screen, or indeed anywhere.
You're very lucky. Great parental support. If you didn't have that, do you think you could still have achieved what you've achieved?
I am aware that I, come from quite a well-known public family, but I think there is a way I could actually, but a slimmer way of doing it.
Which takes us back to that fragile confidence thing, especially for people on the spectrum. Something Jules now jokes about.
But I don't watch the show unless I'm on it. You do realise that, don't you?
Well, you're the only thing that matters, right?
So that's Jules, and a real sort of success story, but not the only one. So like they said in the film, artists who complete this course go on to paid work. So I believe our stat is that 84% of graduates went on to paid work in the arts within their first year after graduating. And that's not including the artists who went on to paid work not in the arts, because of course there are all of these other skills that we've talked about that come through this training. But that key sort of thing for us is that we are producing people who go and who make their own work. And Emma is going to talk to us in a bit about their work as an artist, because it really does lead to employment, which, like you heard in that film, is so important, and not kind of there's not enough work necessarily happening all over the place to make sure that learning disabled and autistic people can have jobs. What this course is doing is saying you absolutely can, and sort of equipping people for that. Did you want to chip anything in, Emma? Are you muted?
She is on mute.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was muted. Nothing springs to my mind right now.
No worries. All right. Oh, no, we don't want to watch Jules again. Brilliant though he is. So in terms of the course itself then, what kinds of things are covered? Emma, do you want to talk a little bit about, a bit more about the kinds of things that you learn on the course?
Yes. So basically we've had lessons for how to devise our own work, and a big part of that when I was there, I don't know whether this is true nowadays, was that we were bringing objects that represented us and deliver pieces about them, and we would look at classical examples of art such as Marina Abramovich. I can't even say her name. Marina Abramovich, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, her. And we've had visiting artists such as Daniel Oliver, Tallulah Haddon, Hester Chillingworth, who actually mentored me, and that'll be talked about a little further on. And we look at, well, I mean, the very beginning of this piece talked about cabaret and live art, although that's not the only focus. Autobiographical work is a massive part, because it's about getting the artists to share their own authentic voices. Misfit Analysis, Kian Binchy, who's actually been very recently in a TV drama called Grace on ITV.
Yeah, if anyone watched Grace on Sunday night, Davey in that was Kian, who's a graduate of the course.
Yeah, that's right. He was from 2014, and we learn about different ways of movement, Laban efforts. I've mentioned Stanislavski, monologues from contemporary and past work. Shakespeare's been done at some point. And a lot of it's also about how to work with collaboration. Collaboration is actually a massive, massive, massive part of the diploma too. Because it's about collaboration with the mainstream, neurotypical, non-disabled part of Central, and the diploma students, collaboration between students, collaboration between students and artists, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
An immersive theatre as well. That's another one. Madhouse Re-Exit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Madhouse in a bit as well.
Right.
Fab. Thanks, Emma. Exactly. So it's a really broad range of things that are being taught on the course. And it's actor training. It's Stanislavski. It's a bit of Shakespeare. It's different kind of forms we do. We have movement tutors come in and teach Laban, teach all of those things that you would learn in a drama school course. But it's also not just about that. It's called the Performance Making Diploma. It's not called the Acting Diploma. We're not about just creating actors who can go and be in other people's work. So although that's a huge part of what ends up happening, so like we said, Kian was in Grace the other day. We've had Jules in Holby. We've had other people in Holby City and in Doctors, and we had someone at the National Theatre the year before last. All kinds of work where people are booked and they go and do that work. But also it's about creating your own work. So it's the Performance Making Diploma, and what we're interested in is working with the students to really pull out what is it that you want to say about the world. So what Emma was saying just then about autobiographical work, it's a huge part of the work that we do, because it's about sort of working with students and saying only you can say things in the way that you say them. Only you can have this particular angle on the world or this particular way of being. And that is something to be used as an artist. As artists, that's what we all do. We dig inside and we find what the thing is. So it's really about that. And collaboration, absolutely. So it's really, really about devising our own work, working together, working in groups, working in pairs, really sort of getting used to that world of being able to, I guess, give your own opinions on things, hear other people's opinions on things, and work together to create work. So we also, like Emma has said, we work with lots of visiting tutors on the course. So not only sort of professional vocal coaches and movement coaches and directors, but also sometimes theatre companies. So we've worked with companies like Told by an Idiot, like Frantic Assembly, like Punch Drunk. If you know any of those, they're kind of foremost in sort of British devised theatre, so we're really exposing students to those kind of top professionals and going, you are the same as them, you will come out the same as them. It's not about going, oh, look at this amazing thing and have a bit of fun playing. It's about going, you can make your own work as well. That's really what we're working towards. And as Emma said, at the end of the course, we have our exit festival, which is, where students devise their own work, and that's performed to an audience. Yeah, go on, Emma.
Sorry. And while I think of it, sometimes you get actual professionals there, like Simon Casson, who's very famous for being part of Ducky, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
He was there for the exit festival that I did. I can't say necessarily hand on heart that there are professionals at every single exit festival, but there is that very real possibility, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also that exit festival is about saying we're part of the Central community and inviting along the professionals at Central who might not have otherwise been involved in the course. Because again, it's about that mission of planting ourselves in that building and going, learning disabled and autistic people belong here. And then at the very end of the course, because all things do have to come to an end, we have our kind of final unit is called Life After Central. And that really is about all of the things that are the sort of maybe slightly less fun things, but the things about how to be an artist. So we have sessions with the casting director who sort of talks to students about what she might be looking for when she's casting people. We have sessions where we teach students about getting an agent, what that is, what that means, what it's like, and the support that you should ask for from your agent. We have sessions around kind of disability awareness and sort of how when you want to place yourself in that disabled artist role and when you might not, sort of exploring all of that. And we also, of course, do headshots with people. We talk to people about how to do self-tapes and show reels and all of that stuff, and touch a little bit also on applying for funding, which, if you're an artist, is your bread and butter, and a really big part of your life. So it's really about all of those skills, as well as nurturing that creative pathway. It's also about really going, cool, now we're going to do it. We're going to go out into the world and really do this. Here's the other things that you might need to know. So as Emma has alluded to, alongside all of that training, we know that we need to make sure we have really top access and support in place so that our students do their best and get the best out of the course. So Emma, do you want to talk a bit about your experience of sort of access support along the course?
Yeah. Actually, one of the very first things I remember when I did the course, couple of very first things now think of it, because I actually started the course the day after a long-term, quite toxic relationship ended. I know it's a bit awkward to put personal stuff in there, but it's true for me. A couple of points that first came up. One was that it's okay to stop when you come across something that might trigger a difficult memory, because I was going to show my Denshi Jisho electronic dictionary from when I studied in Japan, but little did I remember that the massive Pokemon sticker on it was from when my ex and I went to one of the Pokemon stores, and she also taught me Lucy, and Lucy taught me about silence. What was that, Helen?
Lucy's our access manager.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Might help to put a name to the person. Yeah. So she also taught me about silent screams. So basically, if you feel, what I found was if I felt like it was to kind of silently scream into my cupped hands. So my body would behave like it was, only with no sound, and then literally fling it away. So like that kind of thing. It can be as little or profound as that. But yeah, basically just someone to talk to when you're struggling with the course or an aspect of life, potentially, you know.
Yeah, thanks Emma for sharing that. I think that's a really good example of the kind of bespoke way that we make sure everyone's supported. So
centered. Yeah.
So Lucy is our access manager, and Lucy manages access across the whole company. So Lucy gets to know the students when they are students, but then when they go on to professional work with us, Lucy is still there. So it's really knowing people's journey from the very beginning. We also have a fantastic coordinator who, Sophie, who is part of every session that we run. So even if it's not me teaching the session, if it's somebody else coming in, a visiting tutor, there's always that consistency of support. Sophie knows the students really well. We do really detailed access audits with everyone at the beginning of the course. So she's there to jump in and support people whenever needed. And of course, in this recent world of doing things online, Sophie's also been the person who rings people up to give them tech support, lets people in and out of the waiting room, all of that stuff. And that's just because it's really important that there is someone whose job that is. But who's also part of our wider company. So it's not about having a sort of learning support assistant in the room who is there just to support people. It's really about having someone who understands the sort of theatre ecology, who understands the work that we're doing as a wider company, but who's also able to really provide that person-centred support to people. And in terms of that kind of access journey, it really starts at the very beginning. So when students apply for the course, we have an accessible application form that they complete, but we're also really open to receiving videos, voice recordings. If people want to sign and have someone voice over for them, they can do that. We're really, really open to people communicating in whatever way works for them, and also having whatever support they need to apply. So I'm going to talk about recruitment in a little bit, but we will be recruiting over the next few months for new students, and I expect our team to spend lots of time on the phone talking people through that application form and doing that with them, so that nothing feels like a test. Yeah. So that's sort of the beginning. Then our auditions we try to make them as accessible as possible. So we try to have people in small groups. They're group workshop auditions. It's not come along with a Shakespeare speech. As a sort of teacher and director, I'm not interested so much in that. I'm interested in the kind of spark of people and seeing if people can collaborate, what kind of ideas you might come up with in a session. So it's a very relaxed environment. We make it a really fun day, and then we also have a very relaxed chat with people that's kind of their interview. And then, of course, as we go through, we have Lucy who does one-to-one sessions with the students throughout the course. So once a term, Lucy meets up with every student away from me so that they can be completely honest about what's happening for them, how they're doing. And sometimes that becomes about things that aren't to do with everything that's happening in the session. It's really about recognising the whole person, and providing that real person-centred support, like Emma said. And then the other thing that helps us kind of to really create that inclusive, supportive environment is our creative partners. Loads of text on this slide. Right. Go on, Emma.
Just before we do, what I'd like to say is about work with me documents.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Like artists actually go through their support needs and have like a portfolio of their access needs and stuff, which is then shared with other organisations and companies on an as needs be basis. That's my memory of it anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of part of that support planning. The work with me documents are what we produce with the artists, and exactly it's sitting down and kind of going, what do I need when I do this kind of job? What do I need when I'm doing this? And then sharing that exactly with the right people and the relevant people. And it's really, for me, it's a lot about just working with the students and then with the artists to really just normalise that and make it not a thing to feel awkward about, not a thing to feel ashamed about, and really just feeling like you are entitled to support, and like that is a normal thing. What's that? But do you know what I mean? The other thing that we do, actually, that I haven't said, is we work a lot with disabled artists, established disabled artists on the course. So we've worked with artists like Matt Fraser, who you might have seen on various things on TV. He was most recently, I think he was in His Dark Materials. He's also been in like American Horror Story, which I haven't seen, but apparently he's great in it. But we've also worked with just disabled artists from stage and screen, and that's really important for students, not just to get inspired about their own work, but to also go, okay, it's okay to be part of this community. It's okay to be someone that identifies as disabled when it's useful to me, and it's okay to ask for support. That's really the sort of key message for us, is that it's a good thing, a positive thing, something that we should all do a bit more of maybe in life. Yeah, so creative partners are students on other courses at Central. So we've got a couple here. We've got up the top, the guy with the beautiful blonde hair, that's Darius. And he is a student on the Applied Theatre course at Central. It's actually drama, applied theatre and education is what it's called. They call it DATE. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. And down the bottom is Olivia with Thomas's hands on her face. Thomas is a student, and Olivia is the creative partner. She's also on that applied theatre course. But we work with students across the sort of Central community. So we have applied theatre students, we have writing for performance students, we have acting students. Yeah, people coming in who join us on the course. So the way that we work with our creative partners is we sort of pair up a creative partner with a student for their time on the course. And I'm really hesitant to use the word buddy. It's not that. It's not a sort of buddy system. What it's about is it's about a partnership, a creative, equal, collaborative partnership. So that means that sometimes in the classes they will work together to develop ideas, and the creative partner's role will be to ask those right questions to really draw ideas out from the student. But the other thing is that they are responsible for making sure that our students are involved in life at Central. So in the last year of the course, we've had some really fantastic things happen out of creative partnerships. So we've got students who are going to weekly yoga classes that are free at Central, and then they're spending time with other Central students. We've got students who have been part of their creative partners' performances on their course. So it's really about just broadening that experience of being at drama school, being at university, in a way that feels safe and supportive, because it's through someone you know. And it really is a collaboration. So as you can see from these very wordy quotes, apologies, I'm going to read them. It's a two-way street. It's not, I want to be really clear here, it's not about non-disabled people coming in and helping the disabled people with their work. It's absolutely not that. It's about equality and working together.
It's not like a good Samaritan kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
Just, oh, I'll do this for my community service. It is, yeah, like you say, it's a two-way thing.
Absolutely. So in terms of what people have said, so Daniela, who is a creative partner with us at the moment, she said, working with the diploma students has been eye-opening. The performance making diploma approaches its training with care and honesty, encouraging artists to find their true selves, a skill that they will carry forward for the rest of their lives. And I know that Daniela won't mind me saying that off of the back of her work on the performance making diploma, she is now the disability officer at Central. And she has been on her own sort of journey about what her own access needs are as somebody who is dyslexic. And her work with our students, who are so brilliant at saying this is who I am, has really impacted her at being able to say, oh, well, this is who I am and this is what I need. So again, it's that two-way street. And Hattie, who was a creative partner with us a couple of years ago, she said, it is thanks to the unwavering support from the company that I have developed as a practitioner. During my time as a creative partner, I was treated as a member of the Access All Areas family, which imbued me with so much confidence. They gave me creative freedom and always valued my opinions. Because they had faith in me, my confidence in my own ability grew exponentially.
Actually worked with me. Sorry, Helen.
Yeah, go on. No, go on, Emma.
Yeah, well, I actually did the diploma originally in 2016, and then I was a guinea pig for an advanced version of the diploma, the 2-year format, which is currently done.
Yeah.
In 2007 to 18, Hattie was my enabler for that, and thanks to her, my exit show hashtag Binaries Begone has since been performed in London and Canterbury, and Heather and I actually very recently did an R&D, like research and development phase for that, to develop my directorial skills for transforming leadership. So yeah,
so it's
great.
Yeah, so those partnerships really do lead to things. Yeah, they are great. And I think, Emma, what you said about it not being a good Samaritan thing, that's so right. And I think you know, what does sometimes happen is that these creative partners then go on to work in inclusive arts and kind of community work and all of that. And that's, of course, that is giving them valuable skills, but I think they're also taking away stuff from our students that really affects their creative practice as well. Yeah, so that's our sort of creative partnerships. So what happens after the course? Well, many of the graduates of the course go on to then work with us. Many go on to work elsewhere. So there are lots of people who have graduated from the course who are working with other inclusive arts companies, or who are working at places like MenCap, or who are working professionally elsewhere. So you may know on Call the Midwife, Danny, who plays Reggie, he's a graduate of the Diploma, and he kind of went and did his own professional work. But lots of the artists, lots of the graduates come and work with us after they graduate. So this is sort of our where our artists go. And Emma, do you want to talk a bit about your work as an artist with AAA and the kind of different strands that you're part of?
So I'm part of the performance company, which is 12 strong, and I've name dropped so far hashtag Binaries Begone, which was kind of like a dystopian. Basically, it was about what if there were no identifiers that were legal to use, and that was part of Battersea's. It was part of a festival for Battersea. I forget the name now. My Hands and Feet Are Wiggling, which was my very first piece, and you're going to see a little bit of later. Let's see, Hands and Feet. Hashtag Binaries Begone. I've worked with
NFS, of course.
Yes, NFS, thank you. I should have thought of that, but I was actually thinking of a piece I did with Peer Productions, which is a youth theatre company. And I played Felicity Frigg in that. And I've also done consultancy training, mainly for theatres and healthcare settings thus far, but I've also done a law firm, and it's basically going to those venues and talking about how they can be more accessible. I do consultancy training with Lucy on relaxed theatre. Yeah, but there's also an agency, which I'm currently not in. Trainers, I've mentioned that. For consultancy, performance company, I think I've mentioned pretty much everything.
Yeah, great, thanks, Emma. Exactly, so there are these different strands that artists go on to do. So like Emma said, the performance company are at the moment a group of 12 artists who come together regularly for masterclasses and to kind of come up with creative ideas. Then every other year, pretty much, we create a large scale sort of immersive style show. So when we say immersive, we don't necessarily mean if you've come across immersive theatre before, we don't necessarily mean we're going to take you down lots of corridors and things. Sometimes we do that, but sometimes it's also just about the work we make is about sort of getting up close to people, so getting up close to our audiences.
Unreal City, I was just about to say.
I
forgot about that.
Tell us about Unreal City.
Yeah, that was a mix of live art, so live actor, and VR. So you had like an actual VR headset as an audience member. and it was basically exploring the ideas of smart cities and the pros and cons of technology on that front, isolation, and Nick's, and I actually think, and so does Nick, the director, that it was quite a prophetic thing in some way. But I will never ever forget the first time I saw an actual kid in an accessible area show, like primary school, secondary school age, because I think it would be interesting down the line to see if there's things that accessible areas or something related to them or a spin-off of them could do on that front. But yeah, it was really interesting seeing how the audience members reacted going through this bedroom with their VR headset on, and then seeing the actual live actor in the physical bedroom. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame it got pulled, but it's what it is.
Yeah. So what happened with Unreal City was it was last March. So we were able to run for some of the time, but then exactly as Emma says, we made this show that was about a world where you don't leave your house and you do everything from home and you see your friends online, and then that's literally what happened a couple of weeks later. So yeah, that's an example of the kind of shows that our performance company go and make. Artist development is what Emma was talking about with Binaries Be Gone, My Hands and Feet Are Wiggling, artists creating their own shows, which are then sort of developed and either toured or taken to festivals. Then the casting strand is about just that. So we have a partnership with an agency called Simon & Howe, and artists go and do television and film, and we're going to show you a video about that in a moment. And then training, exactly. So Emma regularly goes out to theatres and other sort of organisations to do kind of disability and autism awareness training, but also specific training about front of house and relaxed performances, and sort of working what to do when you have audiences coming in who might have different access needs. And then the final thing that our trainers do is the other half of my work, which is all of our community work. So we're sort of really clear that all of our work should be learning disabled led, learning disabled co-led. So I, as the director of Take Part and Train, will never run a workshop without a learning disabled or autistic co-facilitator. So the artists who graduate from the course, they'll come and run workshops with me, or co-direct shows. So that's the kind of the journey that graduates from the course will go on. Here's our performance company. Here they all are. So this is the 12 artists that we're talking about, and these were what was this photo shoot, Emma? Do you remember?
This was done. These were all done by Michael Worley, and these were based on, I think, a Victorian book about different classical emotions. Like, let's see, DJ, who is top right in the dark red trousers, was disgust, I think. And it was like really kind of over the top, very classical things.
Yeah.
I'm to the left of DJ. I can't remember what my one was called. Dreaming, pondering, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, all 4 of the artists in NFS are in the performance company. I've just noticed that.
Yeah.
That is such a beautiful photo, I have to say.
Isn't it? Yeah, so these are our performance company, and as new graduates come through, the idea is that some of those new graduates will join the performance company, or some will become trainers, some will go into the casting agency, all of that. So it's kind of gradually building and building and building. So success stories, loads of good stuff. So like I said, lots and lots of people get work based off of the back of doing this course. So we've had people in Holby City, in Casualty and in Doctors. We had actors in Damned on Channel 4, Endeavour, Kian was on The Level. We've had actors take roles at the Almeida, Theatre Royal Stratford East, and also the National Theatre, which isn't on here. And then in terms of our training and our consultancy, we currently do training for Lime Pictures on Hollyoaks. So when Hollyoaks brought in an autistic character a couple of years ago, they contacted us to provide training for their whole team on sort of working with autistic actors and making the set accessible, and making the sort of processes work best for that actor. So we provide training for them, but we've also provided training for RADA, for staff at Great Ormond Street in sort of working with learning disabled adults and sort of around some of the sort of history, learning disability history. So these are kind of lots of the things that this course has led to, and that we do as an organisation. And as I said, everything we do is co-led by learning disabled and autistic people. So this is about our agency. So like I said, some of the artists who graduate from the diploma will go on to then be represented by Simon & Howe Agency. So I'm going to show you about that.
Accessible areas take learning disabled people into the mainstream world of not just performing arts, but acting, you know, TV acting, and hopefully the big silver screen someday.
We run a training programme at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama for emerging artists with learning disabilities to author their own work and make their own shows, as well as apply for castings. And we are really excited about this new partnership with Simon & Howe Agency, which is now seeing 7 professional actors being represented jointly by both organisations.
My role within the organisation is really to increase knowledge and the aptitude of these actors to audition well and to deal with mainstream television and sometimes theatre roles.
Who's that?
That's my little girl.
What's her name?
Mia.
You don't look old enough to be her mum.
Thank you.
Kian, who's one of our actors who's also represented in this agency, made a one-man show called the Misfit Analysis, which draws upon his personal experience having autism. And we took that to Edinburgh Festival a couple of years ago, and that had such great reviews.
Look, I don't need a wheelchair, look!
Now is the time for more diversity on our screens, as the actors we represent rarely turn on the TV and see a story or a character they actually identify with.
I played somebody with a learning difficulty, and I have got one, and I've got a learning difficulty myself, so there's no spaffing up. It's bloody real.
Was that the gun that killed my dad?
Yes, I think so.
I wish it had been a different gun. I wish it hadn't been in my room.
With somebody that hasn't got a learning difficulty and they're playing somebody with a learning difficulty, it's put on more, and it's not very real, and it's not very authentic.
So that's our sort of agency partnership. And exactly as Kian says, it's really about ensuring that there's that real authentic representation happening on our stages and screens. And it's getting there, it's getting better, but we're not there yet. Oh. Oh.
Oh, right.
Sorry, it's auto playing, which I wasn't expecting. So what we're going to show you now is about Madhouse Re-Exit. So that is another performance company show that graduates of the diploma ended up making. Emma, would you like to say anything about Madhouse?
From what I think, Madhouse has been one of the biggest first projects that I remember being involved with for consultancy training, and I remember doing loads of pre-show and post-show workshops with you about that, because whenever AAA runs a show, we take great pains to make sure that there are workshops for learning disabled and aimed at learning disabled communities, because we want to get their bums on seats, or we want to get them in theatre spaces as well, you know, because not everything we perform is seated. And basically these workshops are about familiarising people with the work that they'll be viewing, and it helps them engage with the arts and the community. And yeah, you go on, Helen.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. So Madhouse was a gigantic project for us, and it was came from us wanting to do a project around learning disability history, and looking at the fact that until relatively recently, learning disabled and autistic people lived in institutions, in long stay hospitals. Arguably, we haven't moved on a huge amount from that today, with some stories that you hear about ATUs and sort of abuse happening in care homes and things like that. But Madhouse was our attempt to sort of look at that, shine a bit of a light on it, and what we did was we carried out a whole research project in collaboration with the Open University, where we looked at the history of learning disability and long stay institutions, and we then turned that into this incredible show. I can say that because I didn't direct it. I was nothing to do with the creation of it, so I'm not too biased. This incredible show where we took over the entire basement of Shoreditch Town Hall, and we built a world, basically. And the idea was that audiences arrived and they were taken into Paradise Fields, which was a new sort of learning disability institution that was all about providing really good support to people. But as they went on the journey around Paradise Fields, they met these different characters and they realised that perhaps all was not as it seemed. And as Emma says, alongside that production, we ran workshops to make sure that the whole experience was accessible to people, and also to really teach about that history. Because what we found when we were doing the project was that a lot of learning disabled and autistic people didn't know about this very recent history. You know, institutions were only really closing down in the 80s and 90s. So it was new for a lot of people, and actually the training that we did with Great Ormond Street was with the teachers, so that they could kind of pass that information on to some of the young disabled people that they were working with, because it's a really important thing that's not often talked about. So we're going to show you a little bit of Madhouse now, so you can get a bit of a feel for what it was.
What's wrong with you, man? Should you be in a home, sir? No funeral, no eulogy, no final word from there.
So that gives you a little bit of a taster. And yeah, so we performed Madhouse in London, in Shoreditch, and then also in Manchester in association with the Lowry. And that, again, I think that production gives you a really good idea of what we're about as a company. It's about kind of really inviting audiences in, or sort of learning disabled and autistic artists inviting audiences in and then saying, you're in our space now, we're going to tell you something, which I think sort of works with any production that we make. It's about that feeling of, I'm going to tell you something now, and you need to listen to me. And that takes us on, I think, quite nicely, Emma, to your own work. So tell us about this.
Okay, so My Hands and Feet Are Wiggling. Basically, when I did the diploma, I was in quite difficult personal circumstances before I joined, but being on the diploma, making friends for the first time in years, coming back to me in a weird way. It was just, I've never experienced like anything like it, and I honestly never thought I would again. So I wanted to capture that joy and basically new elements of myself that the diploma had unlocked. This was the very first professional piece I did. And it was performed initially at Rich Mix in Shoreditch as part of Steakhouse's live art festival, longer, wetter, faster, better. But since then, I've gone on to use that piece to teach more recent diploma students about live art, and it's been performed in Croydon and Trondheim in Norway at the NTNU. They had a conference about excellence and equality. And it's very heavily autobiographical, and it's about taking stock of what happened before and moving on. And I'm copying Heather, implicating people in the sorts of behaviours that me and autistic and learning disabled people are regularly told off for and have been regularly told off. Like if you twirl your hair or pout when you're thinking or fiddle with your ring, that's okay. But when an autistic person does other stims, like they might rock or wring their hands or make noises or whatever, that's pathologized. And I was just like, what is right and wrong here? Excuse me, kind of thing.
Shall we have a little look at it?
Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name's Emma Selwyn, and I'll be here to perform My Hands and Feet Are Wiggling today. Is there a switch in
You can tell this was my first time.
Well, the idea for this came about through doing a course at Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and before that course I had never been so excited about anything, like never so excited. I've given up on making friends in my early 20s, but now not only do I have friends, I have a couple of objects of desire. Oh, buggers. Oh, man. One of them's just got the most...
It stopped. The sound stopped.
Oh.
The softest, loveliest...
Just pausing for a second. Sorry, team. I think I went on mute then. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous. All right, onwards. Sorry, everybody.
I've given up on making friends in my early 20s, but now not only do I have friends, I have a couple of objects of desire. Oh, buggers. Oh, man. One of them's she's got the most amazing hair, like it's almost down to her knees. No, it's actually below her knees. And there's another one. Oh, he has got the softest, fluffiest curls above his ears. They're so soft and they're so fluffy all above his ears, and it's just cute. Mine's not all that special though, to be honest. I mean, it's a bit frizzy. And the only colours that are in it right now are brown and grey. It's not terribly colourful. Sorry, back to my point. I'm going to be performing the hands and feet of... Excuse me. Would you mind picking your legs, please? It's actually kind of distracting. And why are you picking a nose? It's not very grown up. Did you just have your eyes closed? You had your eyes closed. That's so disrespectful. You really, really need to work on your eye contact. I mean, now you're staring. You're not supposed to stare. You'll get into trouble if you stare. And you're scratching yourself. That's not exactly a grown-up thing to do, is it? That's not very nice. It's a bit gross. And why are you flapping? Yes, you. Why are you flapping and rocking back and forth? This isn't a relaxed performance, don't you know? Can you put your clothes back on and keep the noise down? Do you have any idea just how autistic you look right now? You just look so... Wow, just look at you all. Rocking, fighting, flapping, picking. You're doing a terrible job of passing us normally. Terrible job. Seems like you've all got your own self-stimulatory behaviours, your own spins, and I guess that you do them to regulate yourself, like to keep your mind present in this room when it starts wandering, to perk yourself up when you're feeling subdued, or to calm yourself down when you're feeling overwhelmed. I can relate. Like, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it feels like my hands and feet are wiggling and I have to do things to try and make it stop happening. And when I do it, it's because there's too many people, or it's too noisy, or there are too many sounds or smells, or there's too much my eyes to take. And it's just what happens when I get sensory overload, really.
Thanks, Emma. Glorious. So great. So that's that's my hands and feet are wiggling. That's an example of some of the work that comes out of the artists who we work with, who complete the course. So we, as you can tell, we are a small company with our fingers in a lot of pies, and one of the pies, our most recent pie, I'm going to stop saying pie, is Transforming Leadership. So Transforming Leadership is an Arts Council funded 2-year programme which is about training emerging learning disabled and autistic arts leaders. So what we have done is we've created roles across the company for arts leaders to sort of co-work to learn how to do that job. And it was created really in response to the fact that we know that there's not enough learning disabled leadership, particularly in the arts. That's obviously the world that we know, but we hope that things like this will sort of grow and spread. And it came partly as also from us. I keep saying I don't ever want to be not leading alongside a learning disabled or autistic person. We wanted to sort of formalise that, but also skill people up so that they're ready to take on those leadership roles. So we have, I'm going to try and remember all of the roles that there are. So we have 3 directors. One of which is Emma, and Emma, in a moment I might ask you to talk about your sort of experience of the role. So we've got Emma working alongside Nick, who's our artistic director. Then working alongside me, we have a trainee director of Take Part, so that's all of our participation work, our community work, and a trainee director of training, so that is our performance making diploma. Then we have got 3 digital influencers. So 2 of them are working with us at Access All Areas. And that is, they are working across all of our sort of digital outputs. So that is our social media, that's our website, that's creating videos and creating podcasts and doing all of our tweets. So 2 of them are working with us, and 1 of them is working at Disability Arts Online and will be doing guest editorship later this year. And then we also have 2 chairs, co-chairs of our board. So they work alongside the chair and deputy chair of our board to, I mean, it's been so successful as far as I can tell, because it's really transformed the way that our trustees meet and the accessibility of those meetings and what's sort of prioritised, and just making sure that sort of voices from across the company are heard. So that's sort of transforming leadership in a slightly waffly nutshell. But Emma, do you want to talk about the work that you're doing at the moment on transforming leadership?
Yeah, so I'm the trainee professional director, so I'm working alongside Nick. Most recently, I've been working with Charlene on a piece called The Interrogation, which I think we've just received a little pot of funding for. And I've also had meetings with the British Council and a French organisation called ONDA, l'Office National de Diffusion Artistique, or the National Office of Artistic Diffusion. So we've been talking about how to improve accessibility in the arts, both in the UK and in France. What else? Workshops, performance company workshops, I've just remembered. Basically, because of the current situation, we've all had to go online. I know that gets repeated a lot, but it always bears repeating. And with these performance company workshops, I've been leading workshops, sometimes with Heather and Nick, and sometimes even just by myself. And not too long ago, I led a workshop with Croydon Gig Buddies, so that's outside of Access All Areas, admittedly, and I did some drama games with them. Yeah, I think that's some of what I do.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Emma. And every leader on transforming leadership also has a support mentor, which is, well, Emma, do you want to explain what Heather's role is? Or Heather, do you want to explain what your role is, in fact, since you're here?
Well, Em, feel free to chip in. My role is it's kind of many different things. It will be, for example, if Emma's running a workshop, we'll get together beforehand to plan that, maybe rehearse that, and then during the workshop I'll be there, often sitting back, but if there's any additional support I can offer in the moment, I can be there to provide that. What else would you say, Em?
You actually helped with the hashtag binaries begone R&D, and you were even one of the roles within that outside of mentorship, as in you played an actual literal role in it.
Yeah, and we do a lot of reflecting on your kind of growth as a leader.
That's right.
Yeah, and a lot of evaluation in terms of like how far you've come, what does leadership mean, and really kind of evaluating that as we go along as well.
Yeah. So that's transforming leadership. So that's yeah, just another way that we are really trying to make that industry change. So coming towards the end now of us talking to you, and then hopefully we can take some questions. But this is where you could maybe come in. We're recruiting at the moment. So at the moment, we're in our final term with the current group of students. Obviously, everything moved a little bit because of COVID. So they ended up doing an extra final term with us, but they will finish in April, and we will start to recruit for new students. So applications are open to any learning disabled and or autistic adult. We don't have an upper age limit, so they need to be over 18, but very open to absolutely anyone applying of any age. The only things that we really need from them are that they are able to travel to West London twice a week for classes. So that's travelling to Central. We, of course, don't ask that they do that without support. If somebody needs support to get around, that's absolutely fine. And of course, we ask that they are seriously interested in a career in the arts. Now, that's a tricky one because actually, I know some of the time, you know, if you are a learning disabled person who has grown up being told that you probably won't be able to have the job that you want, you might not fully believe it. So we're interested in people who have the potential to go on to that professional work. And then just in terms of what's not needed, we don't ask for any prior qualifications. So you don't need to have done a drama GCSE. You don't need to have done any sort of previous training that gets you a certificate or a qualification. We are interested in working with people with a whole range of access needs, and it is our job to make the course accessible for the students. So if somebody needs extra support with things like reading and writing, it's our job to provide that. So we don't ask that people come to us with any particular qualifications. We also don't expect anyone to attend without the support that they need. So we've had people who bring PAs into the classes or who travel with a travel buddy and then the travel buddy stays outside. We're really up for whatever people need. Again, it's about that person-centered, bespoke support that we're providing. And we don't need applicants to have loads and loads of performing experience. We have, at the moment on the course, for example, we have somebody who had an agent before and has been acting since the age of about 6, and he's done loads and loads and loads of professional work. But we also have people who've never been in a professional show and might have maybe done a show at college, but they're just really, really interested. So we don't need a particular level of experience. What we need is that real serious desire to do the work as a professional. And then in terms of the sort of timeline, so applications will open on the 7th of May and close on the 9th of July. Like I said much earlier, long ago, we are able to support people with application forms. So the form will be available on our website, but we can speak people through it over the phone, or we can accept video applications. We're going to be releasing easy read information about the course next month. So keep an eye out for that, and then auditions will happen in August and the term will start in October. Like I said, we tend to accept 10 to 15 students every year, and it can be quite competitive, but this year is a weird year, isn't it? So we have no way of knowing whether we're going to get loads and loads of applications or not. Yeah, we'll be running some open days and workshops over the next few months, and we'll do those in schools and colleges and community organisations, and the open days will be digital. In fact, probably all stuff for the next couple of months will be digital, of course. But basically, if you want more information about it, please reach out, because we really want to recruit as widely as possible and meet some really brilliant performers of the future. So this is, yeah, we've got time now, I hope, for some questions. So I might stop sharing if that's okay. And yeah.
Thank you, Helen. That was amazing. Emma, Helen and Heather, what a sterling job you did then. It's fantastic to hear about your successes and the successes of participants on the course. But it's really clear that you've thought through the content of the course to ensure that people are included at every stage. And I think what was really interesting was Kian's comment about authenticity. And I think that's one of the things that comes through and shines through very clearly. I think the approaches you take to raising awareness have been amazing, and especially around the history of disabled people. That's not well known in the mainstream, and I think that we really need to keep pushing that forward. So that's fantastic to hear. But what was really powerful was the work that's being produced. And you know, Emma, that wriggling your hands and feet, was it called? I'm sorry, I didn't capture it quite right.
Yeah.
It was just brilliant. It really was thought-provoking. So I've thoroughly enjoyed listening and hearing about the course, and I'm sure others have. I have one question just to start us off. How do you think we can encourage more HE institutions to offer more opportunities for disabled people?
Oh,
learning disabled people.
Shall I start, Emma?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is about just removing the fear, isn't it? So I think for me, it's about visibility. So having, you know, organisations like ours being present, not just us, there's plenty like us, having, yeah, just I think the thing for us with Central has been getting people in the building. Once people are in the building, it's a lot less scary. But I also think training, yeah, just really helping to go, here are some really simple things that you can do to make things more accessible, just to kind of remove the scariness of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Emma, do you have any thoughts? Because I know you've sort of got experience of sort of studying at university yourself. Is there anything you think that higher education could do to be encouraging sort of better access?
This is quite an interesting one, because I was last in higher education in 2012, and between then and now was mainly dragging a 9-to-5 lifestyle. How to get HE organisations to be more inclusive?
Yeah.
I think I guess, if I'm totally honest, it's about spreading awareness. I think there's that, but I think there's also I think it's also imperative to spread messages of acceptance.
Yes.
Even more than that, because it's all very well being aware that neurodivergent and learning disabled and autistic people exist, and talking about them, but if they're not actually sitting at the dinner table with the HE people, then that's a factor. Heather, did you have your hand up? You're muted.
You're on mute, Heather.
Classic.
I was just going to say, I was thinking back to when I went to university, and there was nothing at the beginning that said, tell us what your needs are. And it feels like there should be some kind of along with your application, a space for, do you have any access needs? And then there should be an officer that can be somewhere to go to, and systems in place. And as far as I know, I don't know how much of that there is, but there felt like there wasn't when I was at university. So.
There wasn't really there wasn't particularly when I was there, and when I had to apply for my stuff. I swear I just heard myself.
Yeah, it stopped though.
It's just the system.
Right. Okay. So when I applied for DSA funding and stuff, I felt like there was a real pressure to, like with PIP forms, if you've ever experienced those, to really dumb down who you are, make sure that every day of your life was like the worst day you've ever had, so you can get as much support as possible, because that's what disabled people are forced to do, to play up on some level, like basically play up all their pity and unworthiness, so just to try and get even the most basic things.
Yeah.
And what support I did have during uni, some of it was quite good, but well, towards the end of it, it was okay. But I think a lot of the time, the support people kind of treated me and supporting me like it was a job, a burden, if anything. So
I think in my experience as well, that the sort of support department, the sort of student support department, is often feels quite distant from the actual work that's happening on the courses.
And it's very rigid and inflexible, in my opinion. Anyway, carry on, Helen.
Yeah, so no, just that really, just that. Oh, I can hear myself now. Just that sometimes there is this group whose job it is to support the student, but actually they're not getting the communication they need about what the student is doing on the course or what the needs of the course are, and the tutors aren't then necessarily getting the information that they need about what the student needs. So I think there's something about bringing that stuff together as well.
I think what shone through was the person-centred approaches that you're taking to ensure things happen properly. I just want to open it up to the rest of the group. I mean, I had just that question because it's been on my mind since reading the report from the Institute of Employment Studies, and hopefully that we will see you leading the way to improve more opportunities. Linda, did you have a question?
There's a question in the chat from Julie. Julie, do you mean, is it Helen that people contact if they want to know more about the course?
Yeah, that was absolutely what I was asking, and she's saying yes. And I, you know who I'm thinking about, Linda. I'm sure you do know who I'm thinking about. I've just sent an email through to the person that I'm thinking about, whose daughter would, yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. Yes, so you can email me. I am helen@accessallariastheatre.org.
Okay. I can't see the chat box, so if there are any other comments or questions.
Ellen, I'm just wondering if there's anyone on the call who works in higher education. I think that we did have some people sign up, but I don't know if they've actually come to the meeting to really think about their institution and how they think they could make a radical change to be inclusive for people with learning disabilities and autism.
Or if they're already doing something, could they share it? Anybody in the room? I can't see any of the chat comments, sorry.
All that's happening right now is just typing up Helen's email address and clarifying or whatever it is.
I guess
so,
oh, sorry, Emma.
So just to read it out loud for people, it's Helen, it's all lowercase, like emails are supposed to be. Helen at Access All Areas Theatre, which is all one word, .org.
Yeah.
Helen at Access All Areas Theatre, all one word, .org.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you, Emma. That's really helpful.
To sort of to jump in just on that question about any sort of HE professionals listening, just to say we're really up for being part of that conversation. Without sort of plugging our other services, we do of course provide consultancy and training, and we've trained Central, we've trained RADA. There's no reason that we couldn't sort of expand that into other arenas. So again, get in touch if you feel that there are things that you could be doing. We're really up for having that conversation.
I think there's a willingness there, but it's about showing people how, and it's not difficult. And that's the message I think that's come across this week so far, that inclusion does work and inclusion can be done. It's just, and it's not difficult. You just have to understand that you have to make that approach happen. And it's also about strong leadership. And I don't think we need leadership in HE around inclusion in the way that we need it. Are there any questions? Rebecca?
Amy reached us her hand up.
Thank you.
Hello.
Do you want to come in?
So I work in a small college, in an FE college. I run an HE course in an FE college, and I'd really echo what you were saying about the importance of all the different groups being linked up. You know, we really see the more we've worked to integrate and not have the sort of study support people as separate, and you know, it just makes so much difference, and we can really feel like we can provide that person-centered care, not care, kind of support. And you know, we get such a diverse range of students. I think, you know, HE courses in FE colleges are maybe an interesting place to sort of think about, you know, how they're working and managing some of these things. One of the things though that's really restrictive is that the kind of requirements for entry qualifications are often set by university partners, and we have very little scope to, you know, very little flexibility on that, and it's really challenging to sort of try to make the case for what people bring to courses. And, you know, I'd be really welcome any thoughts you've got on how to make that argument, on how to have a sort of open mind about who you accept onto the course and why that's important.
Yeah, that's something we definitely struggle with as well. We've got, so, you know, I've talked till the cows come home about the work that students go on to do, but also some students then do go on to other courses and want to continue training, and we've come up against that barrier ourselves as well with other institutions of, well, they haven't got these particular qualifications. So I think it's really about opening that conversation up with the wider HE sector about flexibility. I don't have an answer, unfortunately, Amy. I share your frustration.
Amy, I think it's one of the things that we really need to work on, because the entry requirements, whether it's to FE courses or HE courses, are made, they're not necessarily, you know, they can be flexible. There's no reason. And in the HE sector, it's the institutions that make the decisions about their entry requirements, so they can easily change them. There's nothing set down, as it were, in law to say you cannot do, you know, a higher education diploma unless you've got X, Y, or Z, or there's no reason why you can't even do a BTEC national if you've not got the, you know, the 4 A to Zs or whatever it is now, 9 to 4. So I think that's something we need to work on, and that's probably, you know, I think, Ellen, we need to think about putting together a kind of round table, and I don't know whether we'd start with the Office for Students, which is replaced HEFKey, hasn't it?
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
And just have a beginning debate about it, and, you know, Central could be, could talk about how they work and how that could be possible across a range of subjects, because people with learning disabilities and autism want to do the same range of stuff as everyone else. You know, we meet people every day that are interested in everything, and, you know, the whole range of potential employment. And so I think it's about how do we start the debate with the HE sector.
I think the other thing is we've got the flexibilities within the FE sector around study programmes. Why can we not expand that into HE? There's no reason why we couldn't do that. It's, you know, we've got the Department for Education and the Education Skills Funding agencies funding those things. Well, why can we not work with the Office for Students and look at how we can develop something in HE that makes everything more accessible and more inclusive? So yeah, I think you're right, Linda. That could be a good result from today, taking something like that forward.
It's like everything else in society, isn't it? People, you know, it's never been thought about, so we don't do it. I was asked to go to Bath University a few years ago. Perhaps I shouldn't have named them in case they're on the line, to talk about. I thought I was going to talk about inclusion. But it was really quite interesting, because the idea that someone with a learning disability could access HE was so beyond anybody in the room's comprehension. I mean, the University of East London has had quite a few experiences of including students with learning disabilities on courses, particularly again in performing arts, but also in art and fine art. I don't know how they're doing now, but, you know, that is another partner that we could engage with, because they've got a very open access policy.
In the report from the Institute of Employment Studies, there's some case studies, and I think it's South Essex College is doing some good access to HE. So, you know, I think maybe bring a few partners together across where we're seeing good practice, and maybe have that discussion, an open and honest discussion, to see if we can improve access and inclusion. That would be great. I don't know if there are any other questions in the chat. I can see there are no other hands up, but my chat disappears for whatever reason.
Ellen, I was just going to say, so Rebecca just posted something about the support that it seems students get once they move on from Central. And I'm just talking from my own experience. My son went to Rose Bruford and did an actor musician's degree. So my feeling is that drama schools, colleges are quite good at that kind of alumni support approach once students move on. And I think the question from Rebecca, well, she can speak for herself, she's here somewhere, was around whether there's something that higher education can learn from in terms of how you support your students once they leave.
I think that's highlighted really what we need to be talking about is that very issue. How do we support people in a way that we're hearing from Access All Areas? I mean, you said there was ongoing support from, yeah.
Yeah, so in the first year after graduation, we have sort of regular check-ins between our access manager and the graduates, but then beyond that also, yeah, that support kind of continues. I guess what I would say to the sort of question of it being typical to drama colleges, I think it does depend on the college. Certainly my sort of, yeah, in my kind of experience, it does vary still. It's not a sort of across the board thing, I think. And in terms of the level of support that we're providing for our graduates, I think that's quite unusual and something to be learned from when sort of supporting learning disabled learners, I think.
I think Rebecca's right. There's definitely something other institutions could learn from Access All Areas, and maybe, you know, we need to take that forward from today. So when we start these sessions, we allow 2 hours, but that's a limit, not an aspiration. So if we don't have questions or any other comments or thoughts in the chat, or if anyone wants to put their hand up, I'll just give a second to see if anybody responds to us here. I think you. Sorry, Julie.
No, I was just going to say, I wonder if it's a conversation, just looking at Linda as well, with the arts and culture kind of minister, if we're looking at a round table, you know, let's aim high and try and get the right people in the room. That's something we can think about moving forward.
I definitely agree with that.
Council as well, was, you know, there's some stuff that the British Council might be interested in, so it's sort of looking at the partners. So I'm giving one last shout for any questions or comments or thoughts in the chat, or if anyone wants to put their hand up. And then I'll say going, as they do. But I want to say thank you to Helen, to Emma, to Heather for such a fantastic presentation. You gave us a really good flavour of what Access All Areas and the Royal School of Speech and Drama do. And just to hear how inclusive you are and the support that students get was amazing. So I've thoroughly enjoyed the session. I enjoyed the films and all the things that you shared. So without further ado, I'll say thank you so much again, and I hope our paths cross in our effort, in our revolution to change things in HD. So thanks very much, everybody.